The Magic of Halloween. A short, spooky story by Nilsen Bjørneraas, narrated by Ørjan Svingen. Episode 2. A familiar place. The amulet was shattered. The stranger was struck with shock and anger. The youngsters almost giggled, witnessing the drama, and Mrs. Renfrey considered slapping her husband. Yet she did not, nor did the stranger drift towards rage. Mr. Renfrey, bouncing between confidence and total confusion, picked up an item from within the amulet. He lifted it up high, presenting it to the group. "I don't know how I knew, but I did," he murmured. "What is that?" Natalie questioned. "It looks neat. Maybe it's a magical item," Lily yelled, a bit too loudly. The stranger stepped in. "No, it looks like a key of sorts." "The key you mentioned?" William asked, questioning the stranger's know-all information. "Never did I pause to question that the item was within the heirloom itself," the man continued. In that moment, Mr. Renfrey shifted his attention towards a dusty, worn-down bookshelf, neatly tucked away in a corner of the shop. He moved with intent towards it, not speaking a word. "Honey?" Mrs. Renfrey's voice wavered slightly as she tried to reach her husband, her worry evident. Upon reaching the bookshelf, Mr. Renfrey reached out the item he possessed and whispered to himself. "One key to rule." The rest of the sentence trailed off, leaving the group bereft of its conclusion. Yet he placed the obvious key into a socket between two books. As soon as it clicked into place, a deep rumble vibrated through the floor. The air itself seemed to tilt towards the bookshelf, like it was being pulled into a hidden vortex. "What did you do?" Natalie yelled. "Husband!" Mrs. Renfrey cried from afar. Suddenly, the bookshelf lurched forward, splitting in the middle with a hiss of escaping air. Dust burst out in the air with a whoosh, scattering in all directions as the secret entrance revealed itself. The room beyond was unlike anything they expected. A cavernous chamber bathed in an otherworldly pulsing glow. The group carefully approached the entrance, gathering around Mr. Renfrey, who stood there in awe. "Was this there the entire time?" Sam cried out his question. "Apparently so," William neatly put. "You had this in your shop and never wondered why?" Natalie asked. "Nat," Lily whispered as she scuffed her friend. "What? You think this is normal? A hidden door inside a shop?" Natalie continued. "It's all right," Mr. Renfrey intervened. "I've never really understood why there was a socket in that shelf. Well, until now. Not really sure why I knew, but I did. The amulet, it told me." "Told you?" William asked. "Enough with this nonsense. I will have no more secret hallways and fancy artifacts in my store," Mrs. Renfrey commanded before turning to the stranger. "You! Look at what you've done here." "I merely presented a gift," the man continued. "Leave the customer be, dear," Mr. Renfrey said, trying to calm his wife. "Guys, shouldn't we at least check what's down there?" Lily asked, rather out of character too. "What's going on with you?" Natalie swung back. "It's very scary," Sam mumbled. William pitched in. "Curious or not, when have we ever met good fortune when delving into the unknown?" The group nodded in unison, though it didn't remove the fact that they all were deadly curious about the secret pathway.
"I'll go,"
George said.
"What?"
Codsworth said, surprised. The group had almost forgotten the duo, who had idly observed the drama. They began discussing wildly what to do next, and in the midst of the chaos, the stranger stood watch, observing. His eyes bore a sense of intrigue, while a faint smirk grew upon his lips. Not many moments passed before he spoke. "I will go. It was my amulet, after all. Let me traverse the dangers it have unfolded." Everyone gazed at him, then at each other.
"Hell no, I'm going,"
Natalie commanded.
"Then I'm going too,"
Lily said.
"We all are,"
William shouted.
"We are?"
Sam questioned.
"Seems like we are then, as a team,"
Codsworth signaled.
"What about the shop?"
Mrs. Renfrey asked.
"Fair point, my love," Mr. Renfrey put, before continuing. "You all go ahead. We will keep watch at the store." "Very well then," George said, as the group gathered around the entryway. "We shall be, the Fellowship of Hidden Paths."
Natalie grunted.
"Ugh, that's just lame."
Everyone gathered their strength of mind and began traversing down the secret pathway into the unknown. Of the two last, Natalie and the stranger, the former's attention drifted to the far corner of the shop. Something had caught her eye. A faint glimmer that seemed to call to her, almost as if it were alive. She drifted towards it, barely aware of the conversations around her. The item that held her gaze was a golden ring. Its surface impossibly smooth and flawless, etched with a delicate pattern that seemed to shift in the light. It was beautiful, almost unnaturally so, as if it held some secret that only she could see. For a moment she was mesmerized, her usually indifferent expression softening, her fingers reaching out tentatively towards it. "I would not touch that if I were you. Leave it be," the man said, his voice snapping her out of the trance. Natalie blinked, pulling her hand back reluctantly.
"It's not that nice anyway."
They both left the situation and went into the void. As the group moved deeper into the hidden passage, the light from the chamber behind them faded, replaced by an unsettling darkness that seemed to swallow their footsteps. The only sound was their breathing, quick and shallow, mingling with the echo of their shoes against the cold stone floor.
"Do you think it's safe?"
Sam whispered, his voice almost lost in the void.
"Safe?" Natalie scoffed. "When has anything we've ever done been safe?" "Look alive, everyone!" William called out, his voice trying to mask his own uncertainty. "There's no turning back now."
Trailing just behind them, the stranger flashed a smile that was more amused than reassuring. Just then, a faint glimmer appeared up ahead, like the shimmer of a star trapped in a dark tunnel. The group stopped, staring at the flickering light that seemed to float in the air, pulsing with a rhythmic glow. Lily reached out her hand tentatively, but before she could touch it, the light flared to life, expanding into a swirling vortex of energy. It was a whirlpool of colors and shadows, twisting violently. The stranger eyed them before speaking. "To be so little, you seem strangely unbothered."
It's not our first rodeo, Natalie confidently said. And we're not little. I'll just, Lily mumbled as she gently touched the vortex. Upon doing so, it burst into a purple blast of energy. Steady yourselves, George shouted, trying to anchor his stance as the force intensified. Codsworth, gripping George's shoulder tightly, glanced nervously at the others. See you on the other side, Lily yelled. The vortex was like a black hole, drawing them with a force that seemed to reach out and grab them. The stranger's eyes gleamed with something unreadable, almost like he was savoring the chaos. He leaned closer to Natalie, whispering, "You might want to hold on tight." Without a choice, the group tumbled into the portal, the world around them dissolving into streaks of light and shadow. They were weightless, their voices echoing in the chaos. And then, silence. They hit solid ground with a thud, the air knocked out of them. They were no longer in the hidden passage. Instead, they found themselves standing in a great hall, with shimmering warm lights barely granting them vision of their location. "Where are we?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. "Not in Hallowille anymore," Natalie muttered, dusting herself off. "Great." The stranger's gaze scanned the new surroundings with a hint of a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Some were far more interesting. No, George cried out with a ghostly and familiar tone. Everyone glanced over at him, only to witness that he once again was a ghost. He flew over to a nearby device, a gramophone that lay gently on the floor. George, I think, bummer, Codsworth said. George, now back to being George the Ghost, spoke with great anxiety. I cannot, not again. He flew around in terror, not knowing what to do. Relax, will you? William commanded as he observed the locale. Looks like we are back. Natalie finished his sentence. Oh, you're joking. The mansion? Indeed they were. The group stood in the entry hall of the very mansion they once found themselves in. Surely this must be a mistake. Why would it send us here? Didn't we vanquish the witch? Sam asked. Maybe it was a mistake, William answered. Or maybe it wants us to decorate the place for Halloween, Lily eagerly put. Natalie shook her head in dismay. No, can't you sense it? There is unfinished business here, the stranger uttered. George the Ghost, having calmed his senses, hovered down next to them. He's right. There is something about this place, much like before you guys came to save us. No way the wicked bitch is back. I will smack her, Codsworth heroically yelled from within the gramophone. With what arms, dearest? George questioned. Then a gust of wind struck open the mansion's doors, startling them. A voice, a laugh all too familiar, echoed in the great hall. The wicked witch's laughter ringed in their ears. She cried out. A shadow of her riding a broomstick flew across the walls, spreading dread and fright upon them. Stand your ground. She may not harm us. These are but tricks of a trickster.
the stranger yelled. Codsworth had but wary words to say.
I'm not liking this one bit, mate.
The witch, though a shadow, disappeared just as quickly as she had entered the site. See, nothing to... The stranger was halted in his words. As the witch snuck up from behind him, along with both George and Codsworth, like shadowy tendrils, her long, blood-red nails, almost depicted as claws, grabbed hold around them, and in one fell swoop snatched them into a dark portal like a hole in the ground. And gone they were.
What?
Natalie cried.
Oh gosh.
Lily murmured. That's it. I'm out, Sam said, already taking a step back towards the exit. Lily grabbed Sam by the arm, pulling him back towards the group.
We can't just run away. We saved them the last time we were here. We can do this.
Natalie rolled her eyes but nodded reluctantly.
Fine, but if that witch comes near me, I'm decking her in the face.
All right then, no time for second thoughts, William declared, taking charge. We stick together, we stay alert, and we don't let her trick us. We'll start by finding out where that portal led them. A chill ran through the air, and a low whisper echoed through the hall, repeating a single word over and over.
Beware. Beware. Beware.
Lily's eyes darted around, wide with fear.
Is that the witch, or something else?